Back on Hockey East Overtime Live, the main top line of Spencer Abbott, Brian Flynn, and Joey Diamond have led Hockey East in scoring for much of the year. Abbott and Flynn, both seniors, and were honored before today's game during senior night ceremonies, and both Black Bears find themselves on the Hobie Baker ballot. The award for best player in college hockey gets announced on April 6th, and no surprise that border war rival Stevie Moses is also on the ballot. And Josh, all three of those guys easily could pick up the trophy at the end of the year for Hockey East Player of the Year. I know you're a huge fan of the Home Depot, so why don't you hand out some hardware right now? Who do you got? Rookie of the Year.
To start off with this, first what I'll say is that when you give out these awards for Hockey East, you do have to only take into consideration the Hockey East play, so the out-of-conference games aren't factored in. Starting off with Rookie of the Year, though, I went with Scott Wilson. He's the leading rookie scorer. He has 25 points in 24 conference games. I guess if I were to, say who he had to edge out, I would say it came down to Scott Wilson and John Goudreau on Boston College. But Wilson just, at the end of the day, he had more points. I think that John Goudreau's supporting cast is probably a little bit better than Wilson's. He gets a little bit more done. He's probably a little bit more important to his team. He's probably their best goal scorer right now, and heading into the postseason, they're certainly going to rely on him a lot. For goaltender of the year, I went with Joe Cannata on Merrimack. Now, there's definitely some good goaltenders in Hockey East. Parker Milner stepped up for Boston College. Kira Milan has been great for Boston University. Doug Carr has also been excellent for Lowell. But what Joe Cannata's done is he's probably the most consistent goalie in the league. He's second in goals against average with a 2.21 GAA. He's second in save percentage with a .926. He's second in saves with 698. And he's first in minutes played. So he's been Merrimack's anchor all year long. And again, he's a guy heading into the postseason when they play Maine in that first round. He gives Merrimack an opportunity to win every night. He can steal a game on his own. He's proved that. He's been a 4-year starter. He's got a lot of big games under his belt, and he's going to be a lot to deal with in the postseason. Coming in for Defenseman of the Year, I went with Brian DeMullen on Boston College. He leads Hockey East defenders with 21 points in 25 games played, but that's not really why I chose him. He brings a lot more to the table than just offense. If you talk to the BC coaching staff, I think that they probably feel like their go-to guy on the back end is Brian DeMullen. He's a second-round draft pick, I believe, to Carolina. He had the option to sign and be playing in the NHL right now, but he passed that up to be back at Boston College. A couple of the guys that I think that are in that mix with Brian DeMullen are Tommy Cross at Boston College, who's also their captain. I think he very well could be playing, at least get some games in the National Hockey League next year. And also Adam Clendenning is having a really good season for Boston University. Those are kind of the three guys. Maybe even Will O'Neill up at Maine. He brings a lot of offense as well. Coach of the Year. I don't think that there's too much debate going on here. Norm Bazin is Coach of the Year. They won 5 games last year. In conference-only play, they already have 16 wins, so he has completely come in and he's turned that team around. And the interesting thing about this UMass Lowell team is it's not like they've done a complete overhaul as far as the players. He's got a lot of the same guys that were on that team last year that only won 5 games. Sure, he's got a guy like Scott Wilson who's new, and that injects certainly a lot of offense into his lineup. But what he's done is he's taken a team that won 5 games and he's turned them into a contender, and they're probably going to be playing in the NCAA tournament, not only in the Hockey East tournament. The other guy that I would consider his runner-up might be Jack Parker. He's overcome a lot of odds up there, and he's done some good things as far as keeping them in the playoff picture. Player of the Year, this is the big one. I went with Brian Flynn at the University of Maine. Now, there's obviously a lot of players that could get this award. Joe Cannata, Brian DeMullen. But Brian Flynn, to me, he's the guy that makes that first line go. Spencer Abbott, Joey Diamond, they're great players as well. But Brian Flynn, 35 points in 26 games played. But the numbers that are really important as far as I'm concerned, he's a +20, which is the tops in Hockey East. He has more game-winning goals than anybody else in Hockey East at 4. Now, he certainly does play with some really good line mates, but if you're just asking me, I think that he's the best prospect. I think that he does all the little things well. And not that he doesn't benefit from playing with Joey Diamond and Spencer Abbott, but I think those guys probably benefit a little bit more from playing with him. And he's also the captain of that team. So I think if there's one guy in this league that means more to his team than anybody else, I'd just have to go with Brian Flynn.